Hi, everybody. Thanks a lot for joining today's panel on net zero and sustainability hosted by EthAum Venture Partners and Faradai. This is Pankaj Gupta, Managing Partner at EthAum. Just to give you a brief overview, EthAum is a deep tech revenue accelerator based in Singapore. We are fortunate enough to have 70 plus startups in a portfolio from different parts of the world, stages and sectors, and to receive support from the likes of Enterprise Singapore, Cyberport Hong Kong, Microsoft, AWS, Oracle, Twilio, Rackspace, and many more. Faradai is one of the portfolio startups of EthAum, which is helping enterprises achieve net zero goals. Faradai and EthAum are thrilled to host this panel since it gives a fantastic opportunity to connect with the subject matter experts, learn from their insights, and build a fabulous community. Edward is the moderator of today's event and also director of sales at Faradai. He will ask some truly intriguing and sizzling hot questions to our esteemed panelists. I also request audience to share their comments and questions in the chat section so that we can take them as needed. Hope you enjoy today's insightful discussion and connect with Faradai after the event for exploring collaboration opportunities. Obviously, I would recommend you to connect with the panelists as well and with EthAum. Now, I will request Edward to provide you a brief introduction of Faradai and take the event forward. Edward.
Thanks very much, Pankaj. Yeah, so hi everyone, my name is Ed and I'm passionate about sustainability. I've spent the last 12 or so years of my career working in the environmental services sector. So dealing with and working with FM companies, corporate real estate and blue chips to help them reduce the impact that they have on the environment by helping them transition to a more circular economy. So increasing the amount that they're recycling and procuring more sustainable products. I joined Faradai at the start of this year as Global Sales Director, and my role is to increase our client base across the globe and to help more organizations that have made bold climate statements turn these into a reality through our software platform. And our platform aims to become a sustainability coordination center for your organization. And we help to improve capture of data across a business to reduce labor and increase accuracy, and then allow you to visualize that information securely on our cloud platform, and then to conduct really detailed analysis and calculations so that you can truly understand your energy and sustainability data. And then we couple that with actionable insights so that you can really drive efficiencies throughout your business and ultimately reduce emissions. So we look to improve operational efficiency, increase accuracy, improve stakeholder engagement across an organization, and allow individuals to take data-driven decisions so they can reach their goals more quickly, and ultimately that is reducing CO2 emissions. And we do this through our end-to-end energy and carbon management platform that is coupled with dedicated customer success. And we have three core products: Faradai Carbon, which is a carbon accounting platform allowing you to collect source data across your organization, convert that to CO2 emissions with our library of emissions factors, and then set targets and track your progress against them. Faradai Energy allows you to understand exactly how much energy you're using across your organization, when and where. And we have powerful AI algorithms that can really provide the information that you need to make efficiencies. And that's efficiencies in usage, so reducing usage, but actually also to allow you to procure better value energy. And we have Faradai Grid, which helps organizations manage and optimize their power generation equipment, generators and solar panels. We work across a really broad range of sectors, from medical to hospitality to retail, education, corporate real estate, manufacturing. Anywhere where there's a large number of sites, we're able to add value. We work in 15 different countries today, and we collect data from 12,000 different facilities, working with many global brands like PepsiCo, Vodafone, Shell, BBVA. And I'm really pleased that everyone has joined this session today. A big thank you to all of our panelists as well. And I hope that we have a really great and interesting panel. So I just pass on to the panelists to run through their introductions as well. Karun, would you like to introduce yourself and your organization?
Hi, everyone. I really thank Sachin, Edward, Pankaj for the opportunity to interact with such an august group. So I'm Karun Kumar. I'm taking care of risk management function for Mart Retail Limited, one of the leading value retail companies in India. And looking forward to share my insights from a retailer and from a customer point of view when we look at these solutions.
Thanks. Justin.
Thank you. So hello everyone, I'm Justin here. So I'm actually from Accenture Strategy, focusing on net zero as well as energy related, so like a sustainability topic as part of strategy consulting. Over the years, I've been sort of looking at things related to utilities industry all the way to sort of like your built environment, trying to help clients to then basically figure out how to chart your path towards net zero, as well as how do you then basically put in the necessary initiative, right, to then basically have a required outcome. Thank you.
Thanks, Justin. David, over to you.
Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you all. David McGeown. I'm Director of Transformation and Technology at a facility management company called PCS, based in Thailand. Really looking forward to the discussion today. I suppose from our perspective, we spent a lot of time looking for technology to help drive better energy usage and sustainability for our customers, and just looking forward to sharing some of our experiences, and hopefully that can help you guys out too.
Thanks, David. Over to you, Juan.
Hello, everyone. I'm Juan Antonio Caballero. I work in NH Hotel Group. NH Hotel Group is a European hotel company, part of Manger International. Altogether, we manage 530 hotels in more than 50 countries. I'm in charge, together with a 25-people team, of the engineering and maintenance activity in Europe and Americas. And this team manages 350 hotels around 30 countries.
Thanks, Juan. And last but not least, over to you, Richie.
Hi, my name is Richie Lee. I'm currently the Senior VP at UOB, a very famous local bank and regional bank headquartered in Singapore. I'm very new into the new position. I'm just 2 months into UOB. And before that, I have more than 25 years of experience in different manufacturing companies, MNCs and commercials, real estate companies, including Schneider Electric and CB Richard Ellis. Thanks.
Thanks, Richie. So yes, thank you to all of you. We've got 5 or 6 questions that we're going to try and get through today, which is quite a ambitious task. So I'm going to be kind of quite hot on the timings. We have probably a couple of minutes for each of you to talk on the questions that we've got to go through, and a really diverse range of panelists here today. So I think we should have a really kind of broad and interesting discussion. So I'm going to kick off with the first question, which is, what are the challenges or restrictions that are creating hurdles in achieving net zero? I'm going to start by asking this to Justin, please.
Thank you. So I think based on based on client experiences, right, as well as the past engagement, I think there's a couple of let's say key areas or key hotspots that one would then basically need to actually overcome, or at least address, right, as part of their as their journey towards a net zero. I think the first one is really around establishing the right kind of visibility. Now I think for scope 1, scope 2, that easily understood, but I think right now we're basically looking at, let's say, things related to scope 3, i.e. From a supply side, upstream, downstream, how that's basically coming into play. For CPG related companies, this is basically one of the key areas that retail companies or whatnot would basically look into. I think the second line is really around what you call the capital availability of capital. I think over the years, I think we've been sort of looking at technologies being locked down into, let's say, specific let's say older generations have technology, but fixed capex has been sort of invested in this. So transitioning to net zero, I mean, that itself basically represents a conscious effort, right, to then basically to be in the know, as well as to then basically, bring in the necessary capital, right, to then basically enable, obviously bring in the right kind of innovation to then basically enable the transition. I think for some countries like Singapore, I mean, of course, your natural soil environment, or basically state, the nature of like the country position itself basically is essentially renewable disadvantage. So I think that also basically plays into like a element in terms of what's limitation in terms of the transition.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thanks, Justin. So over to you, Juan. What are those challenges or restrictions that are creating hurdles in doing it?
As operators, we own a very small part of the portfolio. We manage or lease the properties, around 80% of them. So we push owners to invest in improving energy efficiency, reducing the carbon footprint, but they are not always benefit of that energy reduction, meaning the cost reduction. So this results in a lower operational cost for us, but not for them. Obviously, their asset has more value, and we try to push the projects, convincing them about this. But if they look only the return on investment, is usually challenging for us. Second, as Justin was just explaining, is the capex availability. In our case, it's normal that the company prefers to spend the capex in what the clients can see, what is really guest experience. If we compete, energy efficiency projects compete with guest experience projects, let's say refurbishments, improving the beds, the bathrooms, and so on. The results in terms of financial results are always better in their side. So we try to explain everyone that we don't have to look only to the return on investment, but also to the return on the environmental results, because my last point is that companies usually are willing to use environmentally friendly services. Hotels, office buildings, transportation, but only a few of them are willing to pay more for this. So we being really clear nowadays, net zero pathway costs money, and as I said before, we don't need to look only to the return on investment, but also look on the environment.
Yeah, thanks, Juan. Karun, from a retail perspective.
Thanks, Edward. I think from an organization, a retail organization point of view, the first and most important challenge is that we need to have very sustainably clean energies in place, because that's the biggest source of CO2 and CHG emission gases. Second thing is that if we can't measure something, we will not be able to control that either. So lack of technology-led innovative models to calibrate, monitor, and to reduce the carbon emission is something which is, as of now, a challenge in the overall ecosystem. Third is that most of the places, and it's I'm not commenting on any specific organization, but there is a need to have processes on reducing, reusing, and recycling. And of course, and at an overall level, we need more skilled professional and experts and professionals to drive the sustainability initiatives. So overall, in the ecosystem, there have been a lot of legal regulations also that have, especially in India, we have BR and SR regulations, which prompts 1,000 listed companies to have a very strong and robust ESG framework in place and reporting framework in place. While the expectation from the government regulator is increasing, the supporting ecosystem also needs to get, a technology-led model needs to be there.
Thanks, Karun. And over to you, Richie. Oh, you're on mute.
Right. I think the biggest challenge is it's a necessity to understand that sustainability or mitigation against climate changes is not something that is good to have anymore. is something that one must have. I think that's still a challenging state of mind to reach. I think a lot of people are still not willing to try out available innovative solutions that can help to mitigate against climate change or to help to achieve sustainability goals. And also about the acceptance of a sufficiently long project payback period in order to implement a meaningful sustainability solutions. I mean, years ago, people are only willing to accept a very short payback period for any sustainability project. Over the years, yes, grown, but hopefully now people are willing to accept a longer project period in order to be able to implement a good sustainability projects. I think it is also still a remaining challenge that there's still a bit of confusion about the understanding among the different terms, right? The carbon neutrality, the net zero, the SBTI, science-based targets, and the RE100. I think hopefully these terms, this awareness of all these different standards or terminology will become more clarified, become clearer, so that people can choose which path or which standard they would like to align themselves with. Although to me personally, I definitely have a stronger belief in an SBTI approach, which is more aligned with the Paris Agreement or the COP26.
Thanks, Richie. Thanks, everyone. I think there's some really good points that have come out of there, and some of the kind of common themes are clearly in around measurement. That's much easier when it's in your own realms, much more difficult when you're looking at scope 3 and it's across your supply chain and hundreds or even sometimes thousands of different organizations, and measuring that is really, really important. I think the return on the investment is always going to be there and be required, isn't it? I think we are in that position where probably in the hotel hospitality sector, in the retail sector, whether or not the person you're buying your clothes or the bed you're sleeping in are aligned with net zero targets or not, I don't think we're quite there yet. I think on the kind of B2B business side, there's a much more of a push, and that balance will come. But we need the technology, and we need the people that are skilled and understand how to manage this big task. Thank you all. So next question: what are the innovations in the energy management and sustainability space that you are really excited about? And I'm going to go to David to kick us off with that one, please.
Thanks, Ed. So I suppose the thing that's starting to get me more excited, particularly around energy management, is more interoperable IoT solutions. So connected solutions that are not walled gardened or restricted to specific use cases. So what that does is, first of all, to Richie's point, it makes them commercially cheaper, which hopefully gives us a quicker payback. But secondly, from an implementation perspective, much easier for us when our customers are coming to us asking for solutions that help them to monitor energy, but also control the assets that are effectively using that energy. If we've got a single simple solution that allows our people, our process, and our technology to work together for our customers, we're much more likely to convince them it's the right thing to do. We're much more likely to succeed in its implementation as well.
Thanks, David. Justin.
Yeah, so I think, connected spaces definitely, right? And then I think as a result of that, the whole data that basically enables or basically comes with that, I think that basically also provides, a whole slew of, let's say, potential insights, as well as a means to then basically control and basically optimize at the most micro level, right? From all these macro system level all the way to micro operational level. I think that's what I thought is quite interesting. I think, of course, then at the second category, I think the whole conversations around energy transition, where we start basically seeing all these batteries, all these, let's say, electrification, technologies. The whole demand side, the whole demand side management type technologies then basically plays a very exciting role, I think, in this conversation, providing, everyone, right, with a lot more flexibility, as well as, the right kind of options in terms of figuring out where do you then want to actually play. Now, all this, I think, eventually leads to, I think, what I thought would be the most exciting portion, which is basically around, how one then basically relooks at their business model, right? As well as the kind of like go-to-market proposition. I mean, back in the days, you're basically buying kilowatt hours from your national utility, and that's basically fixed. I think, not too soon in the future, we can then basically look at, how can we then basically buy an outcome, buy an energy services, rather than basically looking at sort of like kilowatt hours, right? From, utilities. If you basically look at, let's say, from a circularity kind of perspective, people are also like moving away from take make waste type of like conversation to actually make sure that we try to be resource efficient. Which then eventually translates to low carbon solar emissions or low carbon processes right along the way. So I think the whole business model conversation enabled by digital. I think that's kind of what I thought. It's very interesting and very sort of like exciting.
Great. Thanks, Justin. Juan.
Well, I will not repeat what David and Justin just said, because I fully agree with all what they said. But on top of this, I would say that, especially in our industry, we have been talking about human-centric for a very long time. You know that there are certifications that are focusing on human-centric as well, certificates, for example. That is not only the environmental aspect that we all know, ISO, BREEAM, LEED, and so on, but also that human-centric. And I think it's the time when everything merges in only one pathway. All IoT, sensors, technology to improve the guest experience, but at the same time improving the efficiency and the energy consumption of the buildings, and also affecting a reducing the carbon footprint. I think it's the time now to put everything together, and I'm really excited to see how can it evolve and affect or improve the way our guests feel and our guests use the different spaces in the hotel, not only the hotel room, but also, the public areas, meeting rooms, restaurants, and so on. Regarding energy itself, I would say I'm really excited on how hydrogen can play an important role in energy transformation. This is something my colleagues from Northern Europe have been talking for a very long time. I remember maybe 6 years ago, we were talking about some tests of hydrogen producing heating in the Netherlands, but it's been like quite slow, and I think now the situation with the energy worldwide, but in particular what we are suffering now in Europe, will foster and will help to develop those technologies a bit faster. The good thing for me is that today everything is aligned. All my colleagues, my colleagues in the table said before that we are all in the same way. It's not a nice to have, now it's a must, and we are working in the same direction.
Stuff. Thanks, Juan. Over to you, Richie.
Yeah, I think over the last few years, there have been quite a good number of innovative solutions in both the energy management and sustainability areas. I can think of in terms of the in automation, and that's the first. Second one can be in terms of the improving the intelligence, and the third will be of increasing the impactfulness of the solutions. So, for example, in terms of automations, I think that there are many software now that in the energy management area that's able to collect, analyze, predict all sort of energy management data and come out with good predictive alarms or suggested solutions to prevent potential breakdown, that sort of thing. So the automation has improved a lot. There's even software that's able to generate automatically all the data collected and generate waterfall charts in a few seconds. In terms of intelligence, I think the AI or the intelligence software sensors, for example, are able now to collect almost like a health parameters of all the machineries It's almost like collecting the voltages, the currents, the frequencies, and it's able to predict the health, the status of the health of the machine, and improve the maintenance or the facility management aspects of those important machinery. So I think that's one good example of the so-called improved intelligence features of all these possible solutions. And in terms of impactfulness, I think we all know about the improving efficiency in solar panels. So I think now it's probably about 45%, although they are not fully commercialized yet. But I'm quite sure it's quite near somewhere down the road that we're going to have a solar panels that have a more significant efficiencies in terms of transferring from sunlight to energy. And also, I can think of waste to energy. In order to create more biogas, for example, you can use different bacteria, different microbes, and there are artificial intelligence that's able to choose the right type of bacterial microbes for different type of organic waste, different type of food waste. You will use different types of microbes to improve the AD, the anaerobic digestion, to improve the productivity and impactfulness of the biogas produced. Thank you.
Thanks, Richie. Yeah, that's a world I'm familiar with from my old world in waste. There's organisations doing a lot of research and development into exactly the best ways to do that. So thank you again. Some really great points. I think one of those biggest factors is how we move away from the traditional grid system, how there's the availability of the renewables, be that in solar or AD, and what that means in terms of the grid and the microgrid and managing that demand side. I think there's going to be some really interesting things around there. And as you guys have kind of pointed out time and time again, the availability of data and what we can do with that and the intelligence that can be linked with that is a big theme that there's definitely going to be some exciting areas in. Okay, so next question. How do you see energy management space evolving in the next 5 years? We've probably crossed some of this already. So I'll go to David if you've got anything else to add.
Yeah, sure, Ed. So I think on top of what I mentioned in the answer to the last question, just touching on a few things that some of the other panelists mentioned as well. You know, I don't have the same 360 view that maybe Richie or Justin has around sustainability, but certainly with energy management, we're looking at how we make a facility perform better. The power of edge computing, so that's the power of computing in device, not in the cloud, not consuming a lot of data, and not costing a lot of money, is moving forwards really, really quickly. And that definitely gives us an advantage. We can move more processing to where it's needed rather than it sitting in the cloud. I think touching on Richie's point around intelligence, I think there's a real opportunity for us to harness AI and machine learning to make assets run more efficiently. Just as when you service your car regularly, the engine will run better and you'll be more fuel economic. It's the same with the assets in your building. So your air conditioning, your water pumps, your core electricity panels, all these sorts of things. And then I think combining your facility assets with other facility services within your building, such as your fire alarm systems, your CCTV systems, giving customers a one-stop shop will speed up adoption, bring them on the journey, and it won't be a hard sustainability or energy saving sell. It becomes also a convenience sell on top of that, and an enhanced service delivery. So I think there's lots and lots of things happening from a technology perspective, all the way through the tech stack. There's improvements all the time. There's increased processing power all the time. And the ability to go and just purchase a Microsoft Azure license and start to be able to build AI algorithms and machine learning algorithms easily makes a huge difference.
Thanks, David. Richie.
I think we could just give another example for what I call a total systems energy management solution. That is to be able to combine the best proven solutions from different vendors. Yeah, but we all know that no single vendor is able to have the whole list of the best solutions out there. So Schneider will have some good solution in certain areas, ABB will have certain solution in the other areas. So I think the way going forward, a vendor or any solution provider in the energy efficiency space or energy management space should be able to come out with a total system, comprehensive, recommended solutions, taking care of all the way from the upstream to the downstream, all the way from the transformers, the upstream, down all the way to each AHU, to each pump, and recommend a full list of different energy savings, different energy efficiency solutions, combining from different solution providers, and to be able to give a pros and cons of the different solutions from different solutions providers, so that we as a customers, it's almost like going to Amazon and you're able to read the comments from the different users, and you're able to combine different products by your own choice, but based on the good recommendations of any energy management solution provider. And that sort of recommendation can come in form of a software or a verbal consultation services. So that's something that I think would be helpful.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Yeah, I know there are a couple of kind of platforms out there trying to do that specifically for the kind of prop tech and energy management space to lead on that kind of peer-reviewed type aspect, which I think we've all come to realize is a really valuable part of procurement. And yeah, I mean, interoperability is key, I think, isn't it? The frustrations of the past where things were not able to talk to each other, integrate with each other. I think we are kind of in that position where we're moving away from that. I think there are still kind of legacy systems and things that need to overcome. But that's all great stuff. Thank you both. So on to question 4. So what role in machine learning or computer vision or augmented reality or blockchain will play in the disruption of this space? So again, we've crossed some of this already, but I'll go back to David to give us a bit more around this question if you've got a bit more.
Yeah, I can talk about this sort of stuff all day, Ed, but I just don't want to bore everyone. Regards to machine learning and AI, I think what that can enable us to do, particularly on energy management, is to use the human inputs logic and learn from human input logic. So what I would expect to do if I was putting in an OCR invoice recognition piece of software, I'd expect to take some time to train it. And I actually think that one of the things we should be looking at around energy management systems is taking the time to train them. So those advisors, those consultants who know how to utilize assets in the best way, who know how to make the right decisions and when to make the right decisions to try and reduce costs for customers, we take the logic they apply in the real world and we start to systemize that logic. And in the old days, that would have required someone sitting with them, a business analyst or a tech expert who can turn real world thinking into programmable logic. Machine learning and AI allows us to skip that step, and it allows us to learn from the actions that someone takes and then to turn that into logic automatically. So I think that's quite an exciting area from an AI ML perspective for me. I think the other interesting piece is, from our perspective as an FM company, we spend a lot of time fixing after fail. So we'll go and we'll react to a customer's demand to fix something because it's not working. The air conditioning's broken, my office is really humid, my office is really hot, please can you go and fix it? Well, by capturing the data from the assets before it failed, as well as capturing the data post-fail, i.e. what did we do to fix it, and how did we fix it, we can start to use machine learning to analyze the trend data and introduce something called predictive maintenance or condition-based maintenance. And by being predictive and maintaining based on condition, we optimize condition, which means we extend life, we reduce consumption. We also try and fix things before they break. And of course, if you fix something before it's breaking, you're maintaining its condition, you're increasing its lifespan, you're optimizing the energy usage. So that's where a couple of other areas I can see AI and ML helping us.
Yep. Thanks, David. Justin, if you could tell us your thoughts around blockchain.
Yeah, sure. So I think blockchain does basically provide sort of like the next sort of like generation of market infrastructure, right, required to then basically enable transition of all this net zero. I mean, enable this journey towards net zero as well as energy transition at a much more efficient and much more sort of like scalable kind of method. So I think on one hand, you're basically looking at being able to actually prove that, okay, if I'm going to sell, let's say a let's say a renewable power, right, to my customers, I need to then be able to actually somehow tell them that, hey, this unit of electron, it's really green, right? So blockchain basically enables that sort of like traceability as well as a verification on making sure that you are basically selling 1 unit of green electron generated by the corresponding sort of like power plants. I think so, traceability as well as traceability of this origin, right, is basically important. I think on the other hand, there's basically an element in terms of figuring out that whole visibility, right, along the whole scope 3 related conversation. I mean, in the past, scope 1, scope 2, we all know that. But the thing is, when it comes to scope 3, you then basically rely on the entire ecosystem, right, to then basically provide you bits and pieces of information around what's your eventual footprint. So blockchain actually plays a powerful role in this conversation, and they help by the necessary sort of like transparency without requiring you to actually hold an Excel to go around and ask for all these inputs, and then still requiring a bit of, let's say, audit and verification. And I think the third part is really around the whole carbon offset as well as the carbon trading type of conversation. So I think carbon offset and carbon trading, I mean, that itself will always be sort of like part of a solution, right, for a company to then basically drive towards net zero. And then having sort of like this, let's say, blockchain platform, then basically facilitate some of this, offset as well as credit, so like market, right, then basically keep the price low while basically making sure that we buy the right kind of offset or the right kind of credit from places that it's really so like genuine. That's that's on blockchain.
Thanks, Justin. I dropped off on the end there, but I'm back. Juan, anything to add around AI?
Well, of course, as a facility management professional, David already covered that part, but I want also to say that I fully agree that machine learning and artificial intelligence can help to operate the systems, the facilities, the equipment that transforms energy to maintain them in the proper way so that they operate always in the most efficient point. We have BMS to control and monitor how the systems are working, but we also have EMS to control the energy. We also have environmental indicators tool to control this. We also have energy procurement tools. So we have different tools with different data. And I want to focus now on what we have been talking before about data. Data is the king. But it may happen that in different tools, we have different data. And which one is the good one? I want to share with you my experience when we were setting the carbon emission targets for this year. We found something strange in America. We found something strange in general, and we were like deep diving in the data to try to find where the mistake was. And well, it was in America, and in particular in Mexico. And we went to the hotel where, just to give an impression, our consumption is about 300 gigas of natural gas a year, and only a single hotel was loading 225 gigas of GLP in 1 month. well, we had to spend a lot of time, first figuring out what was the mistake, then deep diving into. What I want to say is we have data all around in the EMS, in the BMS, in the sustainability tool, in the energy procurement tool. How easy would be to have a data lake with all the data in, and a kind of artificial intelligence that should not be so intelligent to extract exactly the data that is accurate to fill the gaps. I think it was one of the colleagues was saying that sometimes we have gaps in the data, and we need to usually an engineer could do it like estimating a proper value, but again, we spend a lot of time finding the mistakes, filling the gaps to have the accurate data and to set the proper targets. Well, I'm sure that in the close future, we will be able to fill those gaps and to find the mistakes easily with artificial intelligence and machine learning.
Yeah, thanks, Juan. I think, yeah, I mean, there's a huge amount of importance placed on these sustainability numbers at the moment, so it's important that they are accurate, and there is a huge amount of data out there, and data is king. I like that phrase that was mentioned. It is king, but it's important that we can bring it all together and then to harness the benefit of it and understand, what's accurate and what's not. So just jumping on to our penultimate question, which is what could be the biggest hurdles in adoption of the innovative solutions within this space? I'm going to go to Justin to kick us off with that one, please.
I think one of the key things that we're basically looking at in terms of adoption, right, is really the whole sort of like inertia, right, of business as well as an individual. I mean, in the past, we're basically looking at, let's say, a whole generation that basically looks at electricity as just something that comes from let's say the power socket, right? And then tomorrow you're basically expecting this generation of people to then basically be able to actually proactively manage, I mean, the whole sort of like use of electricity, and then basically make sure that they build the right kind of like understanding, right bets, the right capability in this space, and then basically excel in this. So I mean that itself is a sort of like very, yeah, I mean, I guess change itself, right? It's basically something that's very challenging in terms of driving adoption. I think the second component, right, is basically the whole conversation around trying to then basically be able to then come up with the right kind of like go-to-market proposition, or basically the right kind of like commercial arrangement in terms of pushing, let's say, new type of technologies to the market, right? I mean, back 10 years ago, we're basically looking at per unit at what rate, right? But I think moving forward, I think the whole sort of like a market arrangement would be sort of like very different, where you can then basically look at, let's say, potentially value-based deal. You can basically look at, outcome-driven sort of conversation, or you can basically look at, a shared risk or basically shared reward kind of like, commercial model to then basically accelerate the whole adoption of capital, as well, I mean, adoption of investment. To accelerate the whole investment, right, into all these new technologies, as well as making sure that, you're not sort of like, carrying all risk. I think that's a bit of the capital side of things. And then maybe the third one is basically to actually ensure that we are always there, right, to then basically try out new kind of technologies to be sort of like courageous in terms of experimenting new kind of technologies and be sort of like a technology adopter, right? Because technologies, I mean, the whole evolution of technology will not wait, right? So, I mean, if you're basically one step behind everyone, you'll be one step behind of everyone. So, I mean, having that sort of mentality in terms of driving one to continuously adopt technologies and experiment that and push the boundaries, I think that's quite important. Of course, then the last part is basically to think about, how do we then basically align the whole ESG as well as capital funding, right? Arrangement. I think in some countries, you are basically looking, I mean, government has now basically played a very proactive role in terms of making sort of like financing cheaper, right, for those that's basically green. So I think do like be creative and tap on all those like different like availability or avenue in the market to then basically push for the necessary implementation as well as adoption.
Yeah, great stuff. Yep, thank you. Over to you, Karun.
Thanks, Edward. I would like to answer these questions from an organization point of view and from a micro lens point of view. So see, any kind of sustainability initiative and carbon emission reduction initiative, it needs to be integrated and imbibed with the business strategy. What we have seen in COVID is that the margins have been squeezed, the business is already under the pressures. But still, these initiatives needs to have a certain level of headroom to support the technology-led sustainability initiatives. And no matter where the organizations are in the maturity curve, the organization must go through a rigorous change management cycle. And that's this definition of change management also vary for organization to organization and from the process maturity point of view. But the organizations would require the right kind of skill set to internally spearhead these initiatives. Our fellow friends have rightly mentioned about the innovative models in the sustainability initiatives and blockchain. Specifically for retail sector, the supply chain needs to be purely integrated, not only at the global level, but at the local level. And this needs to be seamlessly integrated with blockchain technologies to seamlessly monitor the carbon emissions. There is, of course, a need of formal mechanisms to closely measure and monitor and control the indicators. Lastly, I would like to say one thing that, it requires a fine balance of people, process, and technology. Our fellow panelists have raised a very important element that the information resides in various spheres, various models, various sourcing tools. So it requires that whatever information is generated through the management information systems, it needs to be complete, it needs to be reliable, it needs to be comprehensive, and should be able to closely monitor the sustainability targets. The information which is generated should be able to connect with everyone in the organization so that people can relate to it. And purely from retail point of view, yes, everything is commercially driven. It needs to be ascertained that up to what extent the increased cost of sustainability source products or these initiatives can be passed on to the customers, that overall ecosystem needs to be built. And I'm sure with the positive interventions from government, from organizations, and from increased awareness from society overall as a whole, these challenges would be overcome in the times to come.
Great stuff. Thanks, Karun. Richie.
I think one of the biggest hurdles is for any new innovation, innovation I consider as new, any new innovative solutions to be able to show clearly their intended results and their intended impacts. That means their result must be easily observable, so that, because seeing is believing, and therefore it makes it so much easier for them to convince the new customers in adopting these new technologies or new solutions. I think two most frustrating attitude, that if you will, against innovative solutions are usually the status quo attitude, that I'm not interested in trying anything new. I'm happy with what I have now, or doubting new technologies for the sake of doubting. The unwillingness to try anything new because they have not seen the track record, or maybe there's no sufficient track record to show. So those are the few hurdles I've experienced as far as innovations are concerned. So that is why I think any new solution provider coming out with innovation must be able to have sufficient track record, sufficient test lab results that is able to show clearly the intended results of the technology.
Great, thank you. David, have you got anything you'd like to add on this one?
Yeah, I suppose so. I think just touching on what a number of the panelists have said in answer to a number of other questions, in terms of commercial viability, payback, return on investment, however we want to describe it, I think we also need to be innovative in the business model. I think Justin mentioned this either today or the other day, that the business models which we present to customers, solutions around energy management and sustainability, need to be disruptive. There's no good coming up with brand new technology or brand new innovative solutions that help customers achieve their goals, but they can't afford them, or they don't understand how they're priced or how they work commercially. with everything new, with everything innovative, we need to think differently. And I think to be truly disruptive in energy management and sustainability, the business model needs to be broken. We need a repeat of Uber or Grab or Line. I think it needs to be that kind of change that we see.
Great stuff. Thank you, David. Some really good points there. I think ultimately, like many things in life, it comes down to people and money. So if there is, how are we going to overcome that inertia? How are we going to overcome people's doubt? It's really important to show them that others have succeeded. There is a real benefit to using this product and technology, and there has to be the right capital available there and the right business model. So that's really useful stuff. Thank you all. So we've still got maybe just 5 more minutes, so I can ask a couple of you this final question, my favorite question of the afternoon, or the day. So name a few mistakes that startups are making while pitching their innovative solutions to you or other decision makers. So Karun, would you be able to answer that one?
Oh, thanks, Edward. Very quickly, 2 quick points on that. I think that any innovative solution which is pitched by the innovative solution providers and decision makers and entrepreneurs, they need to keep in mind that any solution needs to sit on top of what we are already doing. And it should be able to add value to the existing ecosystem. It should be able to sit on top of what you are already doing and integrate with the existing product life cycles. So anything which is so disruptive that people can't relate to, people who are pitching in might have a difficult problem in convincing. Our fellow panelists have rightly mentioned the fine balance between the economic cost, resource required, payback period, and implementation period is very much required. A project which has got a very long gestation period may not get accepted for implementation. I think these are the 2 factors that would prominently, that whether it's adding value and what is the cost, would derive most of the discussions. Over to you, Edward.
Thank you. So we've probably got 2 more minutes. I can take 2 more questions. Anyone keen to answer this one? Not particularly. I'll go for you then, Richie, as you've got experience of starting startups and probably procuring from them.
Yeah, sure. I think a lot of the high-tech entrepreneurs are very good in their scientific knowledge to come out with fantastic design, but they haven't really considered all the potential bottlenecks, potential difficulties throughout the supply chain. And that can include, is it easy to manufacture your design? Is it easy to manufacture your products? Although they are highly functional, but is it easy to manufacture? And is it easy to transport your products, for example, the logistics? So all these minor details, because the devils are in the details, all that will affect the marketability, the profitability of your fantastic idea, your design. Yeah. We all talk about the so-called project payback period, the potential expensive innovative solutions or for any sustainability project. So I think that is where the potential grants from a responsible government and so-called sustainable financing from green banks, yes, such as UOB, etc., it becomes more and more important. I think so. Of course, the subject of sustainable financing is not part of the agenda today, but I think that's a very important topic too. Yeah.
Thanks, Richie.
Interesting. Again, thanks a lot for joining today's panel. It was very insightful, very interesting panel. We got a lot of interesting, feedback and inputs from our panelists. And I hope that we can keep connecting with each other in the future, keep exploring collaboration opportunities, and keep growing as a community. Take care.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Juan.
Thank you. It was really useful. Thank you.